Super Bowl 57 this Sunday evening. It's the Chiefs and the Eagles, of course. Philly, one Super Bowl win that came all the way back in 2017 over the Patriots. They did win NFL titles back in 48, 49, and 60, but of course that was prior to the AFL and the Super Bowl era. The Chiefs, they played in four Super Bowls. You have to go all the way back to Super Bowl one when they lose to the Green Bay Packers. And then they won Super Bowl four. That's when I became a Chiefs fan. They beat Joe Cap and the Minnesota Vikings 23-7 in New Orleans. And they won Super Bowl 54 over San Francisco. And then they lost to Brady and the Bucks in Super Bowl 55 back in 2020. This is Patrick Mahomes. It's going to be his third Super Bowl before he reaches the age of 30. And it's his third in the last four seasons. Jalen Hurts, if you'd asked this question about 4 or 5 years ago, if Jalen Hurts was going to be a NFL quarterback and a Super Bowl participant starting quarterback, you'd say, no, he's just not an NFL quarterback. Well, guess what? He is an NFL quarterback. And even though this is the biggest stage in football, he's not going to be that affected by it. He's been around big games his whole career.
Yeah, and most years the narrative around the Super Bowl is all about the quarterbacks. No different this year. Mahomes and Hurts. You're looking at the top two favorites for the MVP. Mahomes has a Super Bowl ring. Jalen Hurts, he's got college football championship ring. He also played in other college football playoff games. And as big as this stage is, as you said, this moment is not going to be too big for Jalen Hurts. He never gets too high. He never gets too low.
Yeah, he is steady Eddie just all day long. No doubt about it. Now, offensively, these two teams, they're highly ranked. Kansas City's first in the league. Philly is third. Defensively, Philly's the number 2 defense. And Kansas City, even though they have quite a reputation on defense, they're down at number 11. But all that being said, I'm talking to you over the course of the week and everything, you guys pretty much are flipping a coin on this thing.
Yeah, at one point, Kansas City was a 2-point favorite, a really early opener. Philadelphia was immediately bet. A lot of the action is on Philadelphia, so now the Eagles are favored by 1.5. So it's basically a coin flip game. And when you run the numbers, you come up with Philadelphia 26.5, Kansas City 26. So those power ratings show a minuscule edge to Kansas City, and the total is right there. The total right now is 50.5 to 51.5. And again, Coach, listen, we had under in both championship games. We had the Niners +3. We had the Eagles on the money line. We tried for the middle. We didn't hit it. We had the Chiefs +2. We saw those games as toss-ups. We won Kansas City, but as we said in the recap show, we probably should have lost that play on Kansas City. And how they won in regulation was against big odds because, remember, Cincinnati had the ball with a first down inside a minute to go there. The point is the game is just difficult to handicap. Anyone that claims to have found a major error in this point spread of the Super Bowl, it's just nonsense.
Yeah, and again, that's your area, and the more that I learn from you and other guys that we're around, it amazes me, how accurate you guys can be on this stuff. And again, there's nothing that's foolproof. You look at the information and you decipher it the best you can. That's all you can do, isn't it?
It is, and that's why I've always been a math guy, and sometimes the mixture of math and the intuitive feeling that you have, right? Like, hey, I always refer back to this, but and I don't have very strong conviction on a lot of games. I've been doing this spans 4 decades, back to the 90s, early 90s. So, but I remember when Oregon and Auburn were ready to play. And right when I saw that line, I was like, Oregon is not going to run the ball on offense because remember, I know we're talking about college football and a Super Bowl preview, but the point is, as far as handicapping, all the talk was Cam Newton, Cam Newton, Cam Newton. But the big story of that team was that defensive front. And we knew, like, hey, Oregon can't run it on Auburn. So you find those are things that as a handicapper you kind of know, and it's not reflected in the point spread. But a game like this, it wouldn't surprise me if either team wins by double digits because it's a coin flip.
Yeah. Well, and you guys can look at math all day, but there's something, and those numbers they're what the numbers are. But one thing that you can't handicap is how well players are going to be able to play who are injured or have been injured. The big question in the AFC Championship game was if Mahomes was going to be able to play at all, and if he did play, how effective would he be? And he wasn't 100%, but he made plays and especially made the plays that counted when they had to have them to win the game. Jalen Hurts, he played in that championship game less than 100% with that shoulder injury. This Kansas City wide receiver corps, they're banged up as well. Now, listen, you look at that last drive, Mahomes did it on the field with third and fourth string receivers. He did not have his A team out there, so to speak. But again, both of these quarterbacks, they've been in rehab for these injuries, and I think the off week is going to do nothing but help both of them get better. And I don't know if they're not going to be 100%. I don't think anyone except maybe the punters and the place kickers are 100% at this point in the season. But I think they're going to be as good as can be expected right now going into the game.
Yeah, that's a good point, Coach. And no one's 100% in these games. When you're talking about this is going to be their 20th game, not counting preseason. It's a long season. These guys don't have load management like they're doing in the NBA and taking nights off, and even baseball players. It kills me when Major League Baseball players are out and it says rest. I'm like, you're only in action for about 12 seconds a game, okay? Yeah. Anyway, no, that's a good point. The league's number 2 defense, okay, that's the Eagles. They got a free pass in that NFC title game. Niners didn't have a quarterback. It's not the Eagles' fault, but that's a fact. They didn't have a quarterback that could make throws. So Philadelphia, they're going to want to establish the run, obviously, keep Mahomes off the field. Back in Super Bowl 54, remember, Coach, the Niners had that same game plan. It worked for all the way into the fourth quarter. They led 20-17 in the fourth quarter. Then Mahomes did his thing. Next thing you know, the Chiefs are taking a 31-20 victory.
Yeah, I think you look at the storylines for this game. Obviously, you look at Mahomes versus Hurts. Andy Reid facing his old team against a coach that he fired a few years ago. And the Kelsey brothers, they square off.
Yeah, and there's a lot of storylines, and I'll try to avoid that. I will pay attention to those things, though, Coach, in case I see that it's affecting the point spread and giving value. Otherwise, it's just entertainment. And as far as picking the side of this game, it's a coin flip. I know people want to say, hey, who do you love? I don't. Yeah. It's a coin flip, okay? I'm going to focus on player props, team props. I don't have them all ready today, but, I'll be happy to come back on and share them later in the week.
Yeah, we'll have to do that. And then, of course, as we've talked about, it's hard to believe the season is winding down, and this is the last game. But we'll be back together, and we'll go over some of the some more information as it comes in later on in the week for you. And then next Monday, we'll be back and we'll recap what should be an exciting Super Bowl.
Yeah, hopefully so. And of course, after that, we'll focus all of our attention on college basketball because March Madness just around the corner.